You got hurt in an ATV accident and now you're buried with questions about what to do next. Maybe it wasn't your fault, but the insurance company's already pushing back, or worse, ignoring you altogether. And without the right legal advice early on, you could lose out on the compensation that you actually deserve. I'm Guy DiMartino. I've handled ATV injury cases across Indiana for years, and I'll walk you through exactly how these claims work and what most people get wrong, so you know what to expect, what not to say, and how to protect your rights from the very start. Let's start with the big question I almost hear every week. Who is allowed to actually bring an ATV accident claim here in Indiana? If you've been in an ATV accident, you might wonder if you or your child or even a friend who was riding with you has the right to ask for compensation. Here's the deal. If you were hurt in an ATV crash and it wasn't your fault, you may have a claim. That includes drivers, passengers, and sometimes even bystanders. For example, if you were riding as a passenger and the driver was being reckless, you could file a claim against the driver's insurance. If another ATV ran into you, you might have a claim against their insurance. And if you were hurt because of a dangerous trail or a hidden hazard on someone's land, you might even be able to bring a claim against the landowner. But let's say a child is injured while riding an ATV. In Indiana, a parent or a legal guardian can file a claim on their behalf. And it's not just about kids. The rules also protect adults who were passengers or even people who weren't on an ATV at all, but were hurt by one. One thing I want to stress, Indiana is what's called a modified comparative fault state. That means if you are more than 50% at fault for your accident, you probably won't be able to recover money. But if you were less than half at fault, you can still recover, though your compensation might be reduced by your percentage of fault. So if you're unsure whether you or your child or someone you care about can file an ATV accident claim, it's worth talking these things through with a knowledgeable lawyer. Every detail can change the outcome of your case. Now let's talk about how these accidents usually happen. Understanding the most common causes helps you figure out who may be responsible or prove that you are not responsible. One source of ATV accidents is driver inexperience or recklessness. I've handled cases where someone lost control while going too fast, showing off, or driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In those cases, the injured person may have a strong claim against the careless driver. Another common cause is dangerous or poorly maintained trails. Imagine you're riding on a trail and you hit an unexpected ditch, a broken fence post, or debris left by a landowner. If there weren't warning signs and you had no way to avoid it, that could be the landowner's fault, especially if they invited you to ride there. Sometimes ATV accidents are actually caused by a defect in the ATV itself. For example, if the brakes fail or the steering locks up because of a manufacturing or design problem, you may have a product's liability claim against the company that made or sold the ATV. And a big one here in Indiana is the lack of proper safety gear. Helmets aren't required for everyone, but they're always a good idea. If a rental company didn't provide basic safety equipment or didn't make sure the ATV was in safe working order, they could be on the hook if something goes wrong. One real-life example comes to mind. A family rented ATVs for an afternoon. The brakes on one ATV didn't work, and the rider crashed, breaking his arm. The company hadn't checked the brakes in months, and they didn't offer the riders any helmets. That rider had a strong injury claim, not just because of the crash, but because basic safety rules were ignored. Let's talk about the bottom line. What can you actually get if you file an ATV accident claim in Indiana? Most people think about medical bills first, and yes, those are absolutely covered. If you went to the hospital, needed surgery, had follow-up doctor's appointments, required physical therapy because of the accident, you can claim those costs. But there's more. If you missed work or lost your job because you were hurt, you can claim lost wages. And if your injuries affect your ability to earn money in the future, that can be part of your claim also. Pain and suffering is a big one. This isn't just about physical pain. It's about everything you have to deal with because of your injuries. Maybe you can't play with your kids like you used to, or you miss out on a family trip, or you have anxiety every time you see an ATV. Those things matter, and Indiana law recognizes that. You can also recover for property damage. If your ATV was wrecked, or your helmet was wrecked, or other gear was destroyed, those costs are recoverable. And in tragic cases where someone dies in an ATV accident, the family may be able to make a wrongful death claim for funeral costs, loss support, and many other damages. The amount you can recover depends upon the exact losses, how severe the injuries are, and whether you share any responsibility for the crash. Remember that modified comparative fault rule. If you're found partly at fault, your damages may be reduced by that percentage of fault. If you're watching this, you might have just been in an ATV accident or know someone who has. The steps you take right now are absolutely crucial for protecting your health and your legal rights. The very first thing is to get medical attention, even if you feel okay. Some injuries can take hours or days to show up. If you hit your head or hurt your back, it's especially important to get those areas checked out. Medical records are a huge part of your case. Next, document everything. Take pictures of the scene or your injuries, the ATV, any hazards that were on the trail, and the area where the accident happened. Get the names and contact information of any witnesses. If the accident happened on someone else's property or involved another rider, get their information also. Report the accident if it happened on public property. Call the police. If it's on private land, tell the owner or rental company about the accident. If a defective ATV caused your accident, keep the ATV in its post-accident condition as much as possible. Don't let anyone repair or dispose of it because you might need it as evidence later on. Don't sign anything or give a recorded statement to an insurance company without talking to a lawyer first. Insurance adjusters will often try to get you to settle quickly for less than you deserve, or get you to say something in that statement that could hurt your case later on. Finally, call an attorney who knows Indiana ATV accident claims. These cases can be complicated, and there are deadlines for filing claims, usually 2 years, but it can be shorter in some cases. In one real example, a client called me the day after her son's ATV accident. Because she acted fast, we were able to gather crucial evidence and witness statements that made all the difference in getting a fair settlement later on. Let's be honest, ATV accident claims aren't always simple. Here are some challenges you might face and how to avoid them. First, proving fault can be tricky. Indiana's modified comparative fault rule means that if an insurance company can show that you were more at fault than the other person or the other landowner, they won't have to pay. They'll look for anything. Were you speeding? Did you have a helmet? Were you riding where you shouldn't have been? A good attorney will help you put your best case forward and challenge these arguments. Second, some ATV accidents happen on private land, where the rules are different. Landowners in Indiana have a duty to warn about known hazards. But if you were trespassing or breaking the rules, your claim could be denied. Always be honest with your lawyer about where and how the accident happened. Third, many people don't realize that their own insurance may cover an ATV accident even if it didn't happen on a road. Some homeowners policies, umbrella policies, or even an auto insurance policy might apply depending upon the facts of the accident and the terms of the policy. But you have to ask, and you need to report the claim correctly Another pitfall is settling too soon. Insurance companies know you need money for medical bills, so they might offer you a quick check. But if you accept it, you could give up your rights to more money later on, even if your injuries turn out to be much worse than you thought. Finally, there are strict deadlines. Indiana's statute of limitations for personal injury claims is usually 2 years from the date of accident. If you miss that, you're out of luck, no matter how strong of a case you may have. To avoid these pitfalls, document everything. Stay off of social media about the accident and talk to a lawyer as soon as you can. We've covered a lot in this video. Who can file an ATV accident claim in Indiana? The most common causes of these accidents? What damages you can recover after an accident? What steps to take after an accident? And some common pitfalls to watch out for. If you or your loved one has been hurt in an ATV accident, don't try to go it alone. The right help can make all the difference between a fair outcome and a missed opportunity. We don't want you to be a victim twice. And if you want to know how to handle insurance companies, especially what they don't want you to ask, make sure to watch our next video. 5 questions insurance adjusters don't want you to ask. You'll learn how to protect your rights and avoid costly mistakes and get the maximum settlement you deserve. See you over there.